Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here. I have the honor and the privilege of having my man Derek here. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you coming on and taking the time, man. You know, I'm going to let you kind of tell the audience who you are and what you do, and you can start from where you want to start from in your story, and we'll just get going.
All right. Yeah. So I'm Derek Loda. I'll take you back for not the whole story, but my work-wise career to where I've gotten to where I'm at in real estate. But I actually worked in the golf industry for better part of 7 years. I was in the golf maintenance side, so I was an assistant superintendent. I kind of built up a lot of high-profile courses. Most recently, before I made the switch, was Whistling Straits, which has PGA Championships, Ryder Cup coming up. A lot of high profile experience, so I had a promising career in the golf industry, but I got to a point I was getting pretty serious with my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and kind of saw a vision of, I want to have a family. I kind of see this clear picture, this path to it. I don't want to have to not be able to go on vacation in summer with my wife and kids because I have to worry about keeping grass alive for people to golf on. So I kind of started going down that path of, it wasn't super fulfilling for me. I kind of lost that passion for it because you give up your life, basically between May and, where I was in Wisconsin, between May and October. A lot of your life is dedicated to that course. You're waking up at, for me, 3:30, you're going to work all day, you go to the gym, you come home and you're dead tired. You're going to sleep by like 8:00 or you're falling asleep, whether you want to go do something or not. So it was kind of hard, relationship wise. And I kind of saw that future, and I didn't want to just have that status quo. Could have had, again, very promising, career ahead, but it wasn't very fulfilling for me. So I ended up making the switch into real estate for sales. I got my real estate license in 2017. At that time, I had already had an upper lower duplex and a single family rental. So I lived in the one unit for the duplex, rented out the other, refinanced that, bought another one. So I kind of had that real estate experience. I kind of wanted to go in that direction anyway. So I decided, hey, I'm go on real estate, get my sales. It allows me to work on the investing side and, have a little bit more control. But at that point, it's really up to me. So I got that. And shortly after that switch, I was like, I don't want to pursue the single family, the duplex, some of these smaller properties. A lot of people have made a lot of money in it, but it wasn't the right fit for me. I wanted to pursue multifamily. So I kind of paused everything and focused more into that. Ended up getting an 88 unit property under contract. That didn't work out because I didn't know the right people that I had to know. I didn't know the right process. And, just all in all, the timing wasn't right for it. But from that, I ended up joining a mentorship program, get around the network, around the right people. So that property didn't close, but it was the best thing that happened to me because it's led me to get involved in that group. And which actually, if not for that, I wouldn't have met you. So it's a lot of really good contacts that have come from that. So now my focus is on multifamily properties, typically 80s, 90s, kind of C plus B class properties, workforce housing, where I'm going to be able to provide a very high quality place for people to live, something that they're proud of. It is their home, and be able to have good returns for myself, for other investors, and try to help people change what that mindset of retirement is, to expedite that so they have more control of their life through having an alternative investment from what the status quo is. So that's kind of where my focus is now. So, I have my podcast, I have the mentorship program, the network there, and then obviously working on getting properties down here in Central Florida.
Mm-hmm. And something I want to touch on, amazing story. I learned a little bit too myself. I always thought that my dream when I was in high school was I wanted to make money when I was on the golf course, right? But you were actually like, how agonizing that your job revolved around other people not working and you were at work, right? I would imagine that went through your brain a couple of times, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're out there and you're seeing who's at the course. When I was in South Carolina, there's Dan Marino, Darius Rucker, these people that are coming out all the time. I'm up at Whistling, and you see these people, and once I started, watching, like there were people that were, um, interviews that are on YouTube. And I'm like, oh wait, I saw him there. Wait, what does he do? Oh, he does that. And he's out there spending, $500 just to get out on the course, not even counting any food, drinks, stopping at the pro shop, any of that. It's $1,000 day and it's a Tuesday afternoon. Mm-hmm. Like, man, yeah. So it kind of grinds your gears, and I'm here. I'm like, man, I'm doing this for 40,000. I'm giving up basically my whole life, and they're here on it. It's just another golf trip. It's
so where did you hear about? Where did you, 100%? Where did you hear about real estate when you bought your first duplex? Because leaving something that you had done for so long with a salary, and you're starting a family, I would imagine the switch is very scary.
Yeah. It was actually when I was working out in New York. I was out on Long Island. It was at a country club, and my boss there, he had invested a little bit more into office commercial aspect. I mean, obviously multifamily is classified in the commercial bubble, but for him, more of the office space properties like that, he had some investing experience in. At least that was my understanding at the time. And one of the other assistants there, his family, they built a lot of duplexes. They'd sell some, they'd hold some. So again, kind of just general real estate kind of pushed me, and he was pushing me, hey, you got to get some real estate. And, so kind of made the push. I was looking at stuff even when I was out there. That was back in my hometown in Appleton. Very familiar with the market. I have people there that could check up on it. Obviously would have had to have a management company for it, but I was looking at it and then ended up waiting because I made the switch and actually got a job back in Wisconsin. So I got one where I moved. But yeah, that was really the first push was into it, but I didn't really see where it could go. I didn't have that vision of where it could go until I refinanced it. I actually bought it as a foreclosure. Got it for $45,000, put about 12 grand into it and updates, and refinanced and pulled like 35 grand out.
Okay. So what I don't do enough on this show, and I'm glad I have you because you're so detail oriented. Let's take a minute and let's walk us through that deal. Seriously, I want to hit it so people can really understand the power of real estate, because when I refinanced my first house, that's when the light bulb went off too. Same thing. I pulled out 60 grand and still had 80 in it. And I was like, oh, wow. So let's walk us through. So you found it, foreclosure. How did you go about that?
Yep. So it was actually just going on, whether it was like a realtor.com, Zillow, something like that. Just was looking through. Because when I was going to get my job, I had it. I wasn't going to start until, whenever it was, March 1st. So it was in January. I, started looking at stuff because I was looking at places to rent versus, that. And I was kind of like, okay, I didn't really want to own a house just for myself. But I saw that, okay, it can offset some of those costs. So with having that other unit, rent out the one, live in the other, essentially no charge apart from my utilities, basically. So, was kind of looking at stuff like that. And this one popped up and it was, $45,000. It was a foreclosure. I simply reached out to the listing agent for it and kind of went through that. And it was I believe it was a Fannie Mae home path. So had it where you had a select window where if you were going to own or occupy for at least a year, you can have, it was like a 14-day period. If they didn't get an offer that, they would accept for it. After that day, then they would open it up to anyone. So got the offer and I just went in full price, and pretty classic terms for anyone that's bought just general house, just paid full price, had decent earnest, the standard contingencies, and kind of went through. But I had my parents actually check it out. It's about an hour and 15 minutes from where they lived. Went through, they did a showing with them, got some extra pictures, some videos, and trust their opinion. My dad is electrical engineer, so he's that's where my detail detail orientation comes from.
Coming
But
together now.
yeah. So he but he would obviously look out for bigger problems. But this house was actually moved, so it was on like a 15-year-old foundation. It was a 1910 built home, but basically a new foundation. Obviously not brand new, but with that, the walls were wavy as could be, so it was kind of frustrating with that, because whenever you move a house, it's going to get a little funky. But anyway, so the foundation was good, so typically that's the biggest issue for properties in Wisconsin. You get a little bit of added pressure there, and foundations are usually where hang-ups are. But anyway, that's not really the important part here. So get this property, $45,000. I end up putting, again, about $12,000 in between the upper and the lower. I overspent in my unit because I treated it a little bit too much like a home versus an investment. So for listeners that are thinking about doing, first time owner for owner occupied duplex, look at it as the investment. Unless you were going to be there for 30 years, look at it as the investment. So I got, some engineered hardwood for the low. Stupid, should just done the vinyl plank like I did in the upper. And I actually like the look of it better after all of a sudden done anyway. But, so kind of overspent a little bit on stuff. Probably could have saved myself a couple thousand. So not, not a huge amount, but again, anything affects those numbers. So after a year, I went through to refinance it. I ended up pulling out, again, about $35,000 from it. I used that to buy another property, which was just a single family rental. That was about 45 minutes away, again, closer to my hometown. I kind of like the opportunity there. Again, in hindsight, I wouldn't have bought that property. I would have done something else. But for the sake of this, bought that property. And then we put about $5,000 into it. It was a smoker had lived there for 25 years, so we had to seal up all the walls, repaint, pulled all the carpet, just put in hard flooring, throughout just some laminate plank. Which, again, also for your listeners, if they're going to be putting stuff in, just get the vinyl plank, because it's far more water resistant, or just generally speaking, waterproof. Laminate plank can get a little. It's water in the pockets and can kind of puff up. So your longevity is going to be much better with vinyl plank. But anyway, so go through. I end up in 2017. I make the switch in 2018. I did sell that property in the first one that I got, the duplex, which I guess I should go back.
Was it cash flowing?
Yeah. So I'm getting ahead of myself. Going back, I ended up renting it out to a couple of interns that we had at the golf course. And the one ended up becoming the other assistant superintendent the following year, got that job. So then he stayed for it. I was about $600 a month for that. My total payment, the first go around, was $430 a month. And then my total payment after the refinance was about $650 a month, and that's counting P&I, insurance, taxes. So obviously above and beyond that would be my utilities, internet, stuff like that. So if I kind of paid myself rent, I was doing all right, because you get there. But anyway, so I leave. The other assistant actually left as well. He wanted to get out, similar reason that I did, lifestyle wise. But so ends up, it ended up being vacant for like 5 months. Again, I didn't look at it the way that I should have. Should have filled it, because it was a duplex. I was like, oh, well, this way it's open, so someone could convert it back to no, I should have just filled both as soon as I left. But I didn't. Again, learn from those mistakes. It probably cost me about, I would say about $1,500 a month for the 5 months that it was vacant, when I wasn't living there. But again, live and learn. So I ended up selling it. And at that point, I think I cashed out like another 18,000.
Okay.
So then going to the next property, the single family that I had, I just sold that this last May, and again ended up buying it for like 87, I believe, and I just sold it for 112.5. Put about $5,000 into it. So all in all, between cash flow, obviously the equity that was built, and then from selling it all in, I was right around 90,000 that I made from from about the $20,000 investment at the front end. So it worked out for me, and it could have worked out much better. Now, that was at a point in the market where you could find a little bit better deals than we are. We are certainly at a peak right now, but even on the small stuff, you can make some good money. I just ended up wanting to focus on something else.
Well, I get you to tell that story to actually walk somebody through a deal and show that it's possible. But I also I wanted you to do that story because I want you to answer this question. As profitable as that was, and yes, but the amount of work that was necessary and stress that you could now, what you're focused on now, right? While I tell everybody, get a team together and operate on a bigger scale. I would imagine that you look at it now because you're looking at 90, 100 plus units that you're like, there's no chance I'm doing that, right? Like even though you made the money, like it's a lot of work. I don't think people understand how much work a duplex, a single family property is, right? It's a lot of work.
And especially when it's not right by you and you're going to self-manage, because at that point, when you pay a management company 10%, that's going to dig in a lot more. So, it can be the same across the board, but when you're getting income from one unit and your returns go from, say, $300 to $150 per unit per month, mentally that's pretty tough to kind of swallow that pill, because it is a smaller amount of units producing that. It could be that same amount of income per unit, but it's just a lesser amount. So it was kind of tough. And if I had to go fix something, again, here's a perfect example. Even when I was in Appleton, I'm driving 20 minutes to go down to this property. Okay, resident calls, hey, the water heater, it keeps dripping out of this hose on the side of it. Okay, well, it's a pressure relief valve, most likely. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to spend the 20 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on what traffic is like. I'm going to go down there, check it out. Okay, yeah, that's what it looks like. Now I'm going to look up just to make sure how to change it. Okay, I need this part and this part. Okay, I drive another 15 minutes across town to go get it. I spend 15 minutes at Home Depot getting the stuff. Now I drive 15 minutes back. Oh, but nope, there's a train. That adds on another 5 minutes. Now I'm 20 minutes back to go there. I go do it, and all of a sudden, oh shoot, I don't have the right stuff for it. And because the hose now, to drain it down enough to be able to take the stuff off, I don't have the right piece for that. I go through, I say, F it. I go drive back, and I just call the plumber. So I spent 2.5 hours to not even fix it, to then pay someone to go do it anyway. Because mentally, when you do that, you imagine, you feel like you have to do everything because it's going to save money. What could I have done in the 2.5 hours? Mm-hmm. Could I have called other people? Could I have reached out to, I was never one with my real estate sales to call them, for sale by owners, but I could have done that. I could have just manned up and done it. And what production am I going to get in 2.5 hours of doing focus work versus trying to save $100? And actually, it's not even that, because the part costs $50 and my total bill was $110. I spent $60. Could I have made $60 in 2.5 hours?
Yeah, it's a mind rotation of what's needed, and I had to have that. I haven't told you this, but when I started out with Airbnb, I had 3 of them, and I was working 2 full-time jobs and traveling with one of the jobs and cleaning them all myself. And I was like, I got my mentor, and I was like, oh my God, dude, I'm saving so much money. And he's like, okay. He's like, let's go through that. And so we did all the numbers out, and he goes, all right, you know how much you're paying yourself to clean the toilets and do everything? $2.10. I almost threw up on the call. And I literally called a cleaner that day, and it changed everything, because I don't think people understand how much their time's worth. And I think, we step over, a penny to get to a nickel or whatever they call it, or what, you know what I'm saying? And you have to really placate out. And I think that's almost what multifamily does to you accidentally. But I want to tell you this story. It's really funny. So we turned one of our Airbnbs into a long-term rental. You know who lives there? A contractor. It's the greatest tenant I've ever had in my entire life, and he loves living there with his brother. And I was on my trip, and he's like, "Your AC's leaking, and the ceiling fell through. It's good. Don't worry about it. I got it." And so he goes, I replaced it. I re-sheetrocked it. I painted the whole kitchen because I got bored, and the living room. I go, "Awesome. I took some money off your rent. Thank you so much." I'm just like, this is the greatest tenant in the world. But I mean, how many of those can you have, really? And I think what I love about, and I want to hit here for a minute, is you had to get there to get here, right? And so, Bruce Peterson talks about this. You almost have to catch a unit number high enough where you can have professional management, maintenance involved. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, because even on a 30 or 18 unit, I think you're still sourcing it out a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to have someone on site. It's, cost wise will be a little bit higher, but once you can really get someone on site and it's a quicker response for those residents, it's all about having that better experience for them so that they stay. Do they like where they live? Is it a quick response versus the company has to go, management company has to manage, 10 different properties just in that general neighborhood and driving around, versus you have maintenance and, management on site. It in theory should be a quicker response, but, it takes a certain scale to get to. I don't, for me, I did what I did. I would have done stuff differently looking back on it, but it wasn't necessarily bad that it happened, but it was unnecessary. So, to people that are listening about thinking, well, I'll just manage it for a couple of years. Like there's stuff I learned about with, doing property management. I learned that I'm not a good property manager. I'm too lenient, but I'm a really good team manager. That's what my job was. But, to go through, you don't need to do that. And you don't need to go do single families and duplexes and then gradually work up. You can jump in. You just got to be around the right people. You got to, surround yourself with the type of people that you want to be and learn from them, so you can kind of skip some steps. But yeah, it's, again, why do I think people need to ask themselves when you go into real estate investing? Again, this is the area that I've been in. So real estate investing, why do you go into it? Well, it's probably because you want more control of your life. You want some more time. You want to, really you want to construct a lifestyle that isn't more enjoyable. Most people are doing that while they still have a W-2 job. They're getting started. They're going through. So now really think about it. Is it worth it to save a little bit of money by managing it by managing the properties yourself? Because, okay, you work 40 hours a week. You have your commute, and then, but instead of spending time with your family, you have to go to this property and deal with something, whether it's the tenants, it's the toilet, whatever it may be. You're going backwards versus, I don't have any children, so I can't speak to that, but I'd imagine that if I have a couple of young children, I would cherish that time with them. That has so much more value than saving $100 on a repair. Because that's something that you can't get back. You can make more money. You can't get that time back. So that's why I switched out. And I found myself, I just created two jobs. I had managing my small portfolio, but managing my portfolio and working in sales. That's what being a real estate agent is. It is just an area of sales. It is a job. Except you don't get a salary. It is all commission. So it's up to what you do. And a lot of people have been very successful with that. But when it comes to really thinking about what you want, I think you need to look at the value of your time and finding something that is going to be worth what you deem an hour of your time to be valued at. So it's kind of a very long-winded answer to that about not doing it, but
it's important because what I think you're hitting on that's super important is to truly know the direction of investing that you want to go, whether that be in whatever it is. you have to understand what your value of what you need. Because I say this all the time, and see if this hits you. You're telling me that you need 20 Airbnbs, but I'm telling you that you could retire from 3. So who do you need the 20 Airbnbs from? Like there's no, I don't think people have spent enough time building a roadmap for what they truly need, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, it's just you have an idea. You love the idea of what something could be, but a lot of times I feel that people, because they don't really know what it is, what goes into it, what stuff can be, create more work for themselves or create such a seemingly unobtainable goal that, yeah, I need 20 Airbnbs. Well, geez, I mean, that's going to take years to get to. And I don't know, is that really worth it's all this time and 10 years down the road, maybe we are. Oh, no, no, no. You just need the right ones and you need 3 of them. Here's that path for how it goes. Like it, people just need a little bit more guidance, but really need clarity on like a deep look. Hey, go out in nature. I was up in Wisconsin at the beginning of the month. Couple of my friends, we go on a hunting trip. I'm fortunate that my parents have a good chunk of land up there, and between my parents and my grandparents, there's 400 acres. It's great hunting. Had kind of a slow week, but that's beside the point. But sitting out in nature, and I spent a lot of time, and it really allows you to really think about what's important, really reflect on stuff. So if you're kind of at this crossroads of, man, what do I really want? Go somewhere where you're away from people, you're away from distraction, put your phone away and just think. Bring a notebook, write it down. What do you really want in life? And then think about ways to achieve that. So again, speaking on this point in real estate, I want, for me to walk away from my job, I just need $5,000 a month of income. Okay, well, let's figure out that path for what it's going to take for it. And then looking at your financial situation and, kind of figuring out that true path to get there. Because if you just go, I want $5,000 a month from real estate income, and you don't create any sort of plan to get there, whether you don't know, if you don't know what it really takes to get there, network with people. Right now it's kind of hit or miss whether there's live events and stuff, but there are some out there. But there's a lot of groups. Reach out to people on LinkedIn, Facebook groups. Again, social media can be extremely distracting and pull you away from what your important tasks are. But the right stuff can help push you towards it. The right use of LinkedIn, the right use, Bigger Pockets is a good one. I mean, granted, if you put out a question, you're going to get 15 different answers. So you got to kind of, it can be a little bit more hit or miss, but listen to podcasts, try to find a way. And if you listen to a podcast and you're like, hey, something clicked with me, from what they said, I'm pretty sure 10 times out of 10, they give a way to reach out at the end of the podcast. Reach out to someone, follow up from that. But you need to find a way to get that clarity for what the process is like, because it's not just the goal, it's the process that actually achieves what you're really looking for. So, you don't want to go in blind. I mean, you can, and you kind of learn along the way, but wouldn't it be better to have a little bit more focus and clarity so that you're not going like me, which again, it worked out well. I spent 5 years on smaller properties where, okay, hey, it was fine. I spent all this time, all this effort. I was young, but now I'm married. But what if I spent all that time and all that effort towards multifamily at that time? I didn't know that's what I wanted. To be fair, I didn't know until about beginning of 2018, late 2017. But don't discount the value of your time. So taking a little bit of extra time to figure out what your goal is, on the front end and the path to get there is probably going to save you a heck of a lot of effort and frustration, potential discouragement. That's going to, where you go, nope, this is never going to work out. I'm done. I'm just going to keep working at this job that I gradually dislike more and more each year. And now I got this new boss and I really hate it, but hey, this is kind of where I'm at, so it's again, knowing what the best use of your time is. And that's really, it's tough. It's tough to figure out until you actually really sit down and realize what is important in life.
I've been listening to a lot of Jim Rohn lately, and he said that his mentor said to, like, why don't you become a millionaire? And he's like, well, that's a weird goal. And he goes, no, you're not listening to me. He goes, because who you have to become to be a millionaire is an amazing person with clarity and goals oriented. You could lose it all like he did. And he goes, but I had everything I needed to make it back again. And I think it's a very important part because, you know, I think something that needs to be said is like something my coach said to me is like, you know, I get very impatient about like where I am, right? And he's like, well, hold on, let's back it up for a second. You were a drug addict and an alcoholic for a good part of 22 years. You've been a part of masterminds and sober for about under 2 years. Like, do you see the discrepancy in the time, in the time there? And I'm like, I know, but I'm 38. And he's like, I know, but you've only really been doing it properly for like 6 months, maybe. So like, think of what's happened in that amount of time and then extend that out over 15, 20 years and imagine where you're going to be. And that's, as I'm saying that out loud, I just reminded myself again, but it is the truth because, you know, I think especially in my 20s and my early 30s, I think very important. I feel like a lot of the times we think we're headed in the right direction and we're doing 30 different things, but I don't think we're moving with intention. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. And I think a lot of that too is, again, looking at it from a monetary standpoint, because I mean, let's be realistic. Money does allow you to have the freedoms in life that really allow you to live life versus just being alive. You know, so coming from that without having that right intention, I think a lot of people just don't know where to go, how to have that focus and like how to do stuff right. I mean, you look at the financial education, you look at the lack of financial education in this country. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's basically non-existent. I had a semester of personal financial management in high school where we spent most of the time learning how to write a check. You know, I mean, I guess that's good to know. I still write checks, you know.
Takes about 30 seconds. I think right? We can figure it out. Yeah.
I think we could have, you know, shortened up that time frame and learned a little bit more about what's good debt, what's bad debt, what is the credit score, what's the importance of that, how do you build that up, what factors go into that, how about investment, how does this work? Because, you know, I hear this term, you know, this capitalism and then socialism. Well, a lot of times it's just a lack of understanding of how things work. You know, hey, you may say that the cards are stacked against you, the game isn't fair. But play the game, you know how to play the game. If you're going into, again, we'll say Monopoly. If you're going to play Monopoly and no one walks you through how to do it, you're probably going to lose. Versus if you go through, you get some education that, okay, I understand, this compound interest. Okay, well, I see. Well, what are the benefits that the stock market provides versus, you know, say bonds and real estate and, you know, within real estate, what's some different stuff? And okay, you know, you just have to give a general. I think that opens up some minds, and you want to make, especially again, I'm thinking back to the youth. Obviously, anyone can change at any point in time, but thinking on the youth end, open their minds a little bit where they ask the questions. Because what's the best way to motivate people and help people get out of a junky situation than money? Money drives this world. I mean, it does. People want more money because money will allow you to do what you want, allow you to be happy. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it allows, I believe, that security, which allows a little bit more peace, and then you're able to go out. But again, sorry. No,
I just think it's interesting, right? I think there's a lot of people out there saying that, well, this is where I'm at. Like, this is where I belong, or I'm stuck here. And I'll give you two quick stories. Ryan Panea, one of the best flippers in the country, started when he failed at baseball, started flipping couches on Craigslist. That's how he made his money. He would go pick up a free couch, clean it up, and sell it for $100. He was making like $8,000 to $10,000 a month. Then you have my buddy DJ in Oregon, who's been flipping vintage sneakers since he was like 16. He's getting 20, 50, 20, 30, 50K a pop a sneaker. And he's using that money to go buy real estate. And I'm saying, like, we put these limitations on what the ability is when we have the ability with technology, with YouTube, with all these things that really you could be working 6 jobs. I'm not saying go work 6 jobs, but if you're not where you want to be, you can do a side hustle 2 hours a day that's going to create an extra 60 or $50, right? Like that alone compounded over 2 years get you your first property.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is you just have to, again, find something that other people aren't doing, or to that point, see what other people are doing, replicate that, and do it. There's so much money in this world to go around. I mean, like
plenty.
This idea of the scarcity, so and I get caught in it too. Mm-hmm. My wife and I moved to Orlando. And obviously that's at this time in Orlando, getting a job, there's a lot of uncertainty with that because it's hit from the tourism market. So yeah, this excess out there, but we're going through, and I know that, okay, I have this property. I'm setting aside this time to pursue that investment side over getting my license and doing sales again. So, allow that contingency to be able to focus that time on what's really important, what that end goal is. We're sitting all right, but instead of going into this mindset of, okay, we can't spend money on this, we can't go to dinner, we can't go do whatever, is okay, well, hey, I need to find a way to just pay for that. Yes. So how do I get this added income that's going to pay for it? Okay, in my case, okay, well, I'm going to JV on some deals if I want an extra $1,000 a month, and it's say the units are getting just $100 a month in cash flow, and there's 4 other people in it. Okay, well, really, I want 10 unit. So 25% of say the JV, we need a 40-unit property. Well, assuming that every unit was full in that case, obviously, just accordingly, that's going to allow, okay, well, how do I go find that? Okay, well, it's going to take reaching out to brokers. I can reach out to owners. I can, I have, well, who am I going to partner with? If you don't already have someone, start making some calls. You don't want to go, hey, want to partner on this deal? No, but you just build out a network. You go into your network. Who's interested in stuff down here? Okay, I'm going to make this game plan, and I'm going to find that $1,000 a month is. There's
no point that if you, Derek, put all your focus on, I need to find a 40 unit. I truly believe that if that's all you did for 3 months, you would find a 40 unit, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's having that focus. And again, that focus, I believe, comes from having a true action plan. So I had a great conversation. Someone was kind of coaching through that aspect of your different types of goals, but don't just go, hey, I need to call brokers today. I'm reaching over because it's my whiteboard is over here. I need to call brokers today, or this week I need to call 20 brokers. You're going into a new market. I need to call every broker. Well, okay. If you're going to have to call 20 people and you're not very good at reaching out and making cold calls, and that first interaction is like myself, I get a little tense in it. Once I start having a conversation, or it's a second conversation, I'm fine with it. But interaction. Well, if I go, I need to call 20 people today, I'm probably not going to do it. Versus, hey, okay, over the next 2 weeks, I'm going to call 2 each day. Again, going business days, Monday through Friday. Again, obviously you can expand out of that. If it's first interaction, might not want to bother them on a weekend. They're probably working anyway, but maybe you just save that for a Monday morning. But whatever, for the sake of this example, Monday through Friday, I call 2 each day. Okay, well, I also need to reach out to some local lenders that are around here, just so I have some options if the property doesn't fit for agency debt, whether through size or occupancy. Again, there's a lot of stuff there. For the listeners, that might not be aware, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, quote unquote agency debt, is typically the best terms that you're going to get for multifamily, but their requirements are, a 90% occupancy for 90 days, and the property has to be, the loan size has to typically be over $1 million. There are some exceptions, and each has their own little quirks, but again, but if something is 70% occupied, I'm going to have to get a local lender, some sort of a short, someone that's a little bit more flexible on what the property is like right now. Local community banks tend to be that option, unless you're going with a true bridge debt, which, again, going into the weeds. But anyway, so I need to have relationships with a couple of solid options for local lenders around here. Okay, well, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to do a little bit of research. Where am I going to go to find that? Okay, well, I'm going to just do some digging. It might be posing the question of bigger pockets. Hey, who are some community banks? In my case, I'm in Jake and Gino's mentorship program, so Wheelbarrow Profits. I put something up on there. Hey, what are some community banks that you might know of in Central Florida? Okay, I get a list of 10. We'll just say that people have worked on. All those are going to lend on different stuff. So I'm going to call them, build up that relationship, because typically if you go in blind, I made this mistake in 2018 with the 88 unit property. I went in blind, not knowing, and this lender, they sucked. Mostly their underwriting staff sucked because no one communicated, and it was just this whole ordeal. I didn't have a relationship. So I need to go build those relationships. So I'm going to do 2 calls to brokers, 1 call to a lender each day. And then also I want to build out just my general network around here. So I'm going to, shoot out a couple emails to set up some calls, say, again, 1 each day, talking to 5 new people or building that stuff, each week. Again, so all of a sudden you made 20 calls in the week, and it doesn't seem like that much effort, or it doesn't seem as overwhelming, but you look back on it and it's easy. Now, if you're going through and you're making calls and you're like, oh yeah, let's just keep rolling. Well, then keep rolling with it, get done, but have that plan for how to get to it. And then obviously from there, you build these relationships, you're getting deal flow, you have to underwrite, you got to go through, there's a lot more to it, but just the stepping stone for it. Now that action plan, if there's anyone that's looking to get into, follow that. Just do that. Call two brokers in whatever market it is each day for the next 2 weeks. I bet a lot of them it might go straight to voicemail. You might not get a call back. Send an email. Call back again next week. Just like keep letting them know what you're looking for. But again, it goes back to that focused action. It's not just taking action, because everyone's like, well, you just need to take action. You need to take the right action, because if you're not taking the right action on the right tasks, you're just going to get frustrated because nothing's going to really happen per se in a time frame that really satisfies what you're working towards. Because if it's going to take you 5 years to get a property, you're probably, you're going to get discouraged. And I'm guilty of it myself. Is I ride this wave up, a lot of action. I'm not seeing results. And then I get a little discouraged, a little lazy. And then I go, man, I really need to be doing this stuff. I'm just being a POS. I got to, whatever. I go back up. Well, right up here, you probably just got to go up a little bit more. And that's where that success is actually happening. So how do you have that consistency with it where you're not going to get discouraged, so you keep moving forward? Because I think that's where so many people fall short. And again, don't do what I did, because I've probably spent twice as much time as I should have, because I didn't have consistency. So it's not so much, taking action that's going to get you to your goals. Obviously it's taking the right action, but it's consistently taking action. Mm-hmm. That focused, intentional action to be able to achieve it. And it all comes from really break down every single step that goes into it. Hey, I'm going to buy a house. If it's just present. Okay, well, I got to go talk to go talk to a lender, get pre-approved. Okay, well, to get pre-approved, they're going to want 2 years of, tax returns. They're going to want this, they're going to want that, every step that's in there. So it's going to look like this process of buying a house has 100 steps to it. But dude, a lot of them take 10 seconds. But you're checking off everything.
But I think also by you writing out the process and working through it, you're also removing the emotion from it, because you're just focused on the process. That's a very poignant part, because I think we get wrapped up in this whole thing where it's this, what am I going to do? But you're also focused so much on the process, you might get to the end of the road and not have freaked yourself out about it either.
Yeah, and I think, kind of subconsciously, if you have it written down and you're checking off, as you're going through it, you're like, oh man, I haven't made any progress. We'll go through.
Oh my God.
I guess I actually have. Okay,
Yeah.
let's keep going. It's all just a mind game.
100%.
That's at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Generally speaking, in America, you have all the opportunity in the world to be able to do something. I mean, again, there's people that are dealt a really shitty hand of cards. I mean, pardon the language, but that's just the reality. So look at what you have, like the situation that you've been put into, and find people that, whether it's on YouTube, it's just looking through, that have been through kind of a similar situation, learn from that, from what they did, and find a path to carve out of it. Again, I've been dealt a pretty good hand of cards. I am, middle class in Appleton, Wisconsin. It's a pretty darn great place to grow up, great place to live. I've been able to, have consistent jobs. I've had a very rewarding, even though I left the industry, it was a very rewarding time in golf. I've been pretty darn fortunate in real estate up to this point, but like I look at my dad, who he's still the electrical engineer. He's very much just a W-2, traditional path that a lot of people follow. W-2, 401k. That's kind of that classic American dream. Get a house, have a family, you work for 40 years, you retire, so be it, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. If you don't want it, if that is what satisfies your life, that is perfectly fine. It's not to knock that in any way, shape, or form. That's not what I want. But my dad grew up, he had 6 siblings. They were in Rusk County, Wisconsin, which historically is one of like the bottom 5 top 5 for poorest, bottom 5 for income in Wisconsin. Very rural. There's not much. My dad, his bedroom was in like a crawl space attic. Like it was the size of a twin bed. He went to school, went to technical college. He did a work study and became an electrical engineer. Now, granted, for the way that the college system is set up, it's pretty much frowned upon if you try to do that path. It seems everyone needs 4 years or more so that they can make sure to keep cashing that check. But that's a whole nother discussion. But then he gets a job in Appleton. He works for Casey Aviation, which was kind of tied in with Kimberly Clark. And now it's been gradually bought out by General Dynamics. My dad is an electrical engineer at Gulfstream. So the world, like the number 1 private jets. And he's been there for years, has a very comfortable life. He looks back at what his dad was making, and it wasn't a lot. They were poor. And he was able to get out of it. Now, again, people will argue that, not everyone's going to have that same opportunity. I'm not saying that life is easy for everyone, but it's right here. Are you going to find a way that you're going to be a victim, or are you going to find a way to break out of it? And I don't know from that experience. I truly can't. I can't say what it's like to be, dirt poor in a community that doesn't really have much for perceived opportunity. And I don't, but I know that there have been a lot of people that have done that. Again, you look at it, last year, there were over, this is going in the very opposite scale. There were over 500,000 people that made $1 million or more in this country. That's a pretty substantial amount. I mean, if you really think about it, I don't know what the numbers are for, people that made 500,000, kind of where we're at in that range. But so the opportunity is there. But I bet all of those, well, I can't say all of those people, because some of them are probably trust funds and, we're kind of just truly dealt with, they were dealt a royal flush. But, a lot of the people that are these self-made millionaires, they started their businesses. Well, they probably failed for a while. And then they finally something clicked and they had like real focus and they really had what it is. Because the saying of, anyone can make a bunch of money if they work hard. Well, no. I mean, you look at people who are, say, coal miners, they're working their asses off. If you have hard work in a field where it provides a lot of value to people, I mean, you look at Jeff Bezos, the guy's worth, it seems to go up a couple billion every day, but over 100, what was he at? I think the last time was like $170 billion or something. And people argue, well, he shouldn't have that. He's made it off the labor of people, all of his employees, all this stuff. I'm not saying I like the guy, but look at what he has done for the world. The convenience factor. He has provided an immense amount of value to people, and he has been compensated to an extreme level. Now, granted, a lot of that is in stock options, and that's, again, different aspect there. But okay, it's not going to be to that extent. But find a way to make people's lives better. My way is I'm going to provide a great, safe place for people to live where they want to live there year after year. And they're going to tell their friends because it's a really great community where we truly value our residents. They're not just a number. They're not 304B. They're Jane and John Doe that live there. They've been here. They have a couple of kids. They've been here for 5 years. We really appreciate that they're here. If they have an issue, we address it. It's a business. It's not a charity. Well, actually, that would like to have that branch in at some point in time. But again, it's making their life better, because in real estate, for the investment property, I'm providing a home for someone. It's not just a unit. It is their home. My wife and I, this is our home. It's, like where we live. If we don't like it, we're going to leave. If we're not treated well, we're going to leave. I mean, granted, we're in a position to do that, financially, to just, we could make that switch. Some people get kind of stuck. And just because you have, again, if you treat people well, you provide a good service, you add value to their lives, you will be compensated. What is your path to get that? And I know I've one that I do ramble quite a bit, so I know we kind of went off on a couple of tangents, but again, it comes down to it. How are you going to be able to find a way to add value to people and better their lives?
That's it. There's no more to say. You said it perfectly at the end, because that's the key. In the value that I provide for coaching, the value that I provide for an experience, for a family, for Airbnb, is how I get compensated. And I care about both of those experiences. And as those experiences get better, and I become a better coach and a better Airbnb host, the monetary value of that goes up and up and up. It's we make it too complicated. It's super simple.
And I mean, it's like with the coaching. You are a successful coach by, again, it comes down to the people that you're coaching. They need to actually take the action. But assuming they do, you get compensated more and more, but they are having more and more success. So again, you are rewarded for the value you provide to others. You are bettering their lives. I know firsthand someone that is really crushing it. He's, you're helping him with some coaching, and he is very focused. The amount of money that income that he's been able to generate has been incredible.
Is really, if you look at it, right? Somebody explained this to me this weekend. If you look at the binary cost of coaching, right? Meaning the value that I'm adding to his life in the monetary value of the shift in his bank account, opposed to the nominal fee for coaching. I mean, he's getting really almost a 20% return on his money. Like, if you look at it from that context.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, okay, if it was going to cost you $10,000 to get coaching, but that end result got you $15,000 a month. You're making an extra $5,000.
But more importantly, and let's look at it from a bigger point of view. Your relationship with your wife's better, your health's better, your mindset's better. So yes, monetary wise, my coach had to say that to me. He goes, dude, if I take somebody's company where they're making $100,000 and I take it to $500,000, who cares that they're paying $10,000 for 3 months worth of coaching? It doesn't matter. And but also understand that me as a coach have to understand my value that I'm bringing to the table. I think that's what people have. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, and you're charging based off of the value that you have for people, whether past clients, current students, whatever it is. There is that value. So no, again, you could charge $100 for coaching, and you could coach a lot of people. Well, I'm going to help out more and more people, or you have less and you're able to make more. Again, it's people need to understand that coaches, it is a business, and the genuine coaches do an immense amount of help. There are some, you're always going to have the gurus that are just trying to pitch you more and more, spend more money, whatever. But you'll still probably be able to find some good value out of it. I mean, regardless if they
well,
but
what's interesting though, it's also you're tapping into the coach's network too, which is something that has hit me lately. Like, I have a financial advisor that can teach you how to invest tax-free. Like, these are the things that I look at as like, well, this is just my normal life. But then when you have a client go, hey, that's going to make a big difference, you're like, oh, well, there's values outside of the one-on-one coaching as well too.
Yeah. And it's something where too, coaching is a business. And there is nothing wrong with making money off of coaching, because that you're helping other people make a lot more money than what that opportunity cost is. Again, it's that opportunity cost. But to speak to your point about the network, for me, that was the biggest need that I had. I need some education, need some guidance there, but needed that network. Yeah, that is such a powerful amount. And coaches, wouldn't you want to connect other people that are other students of yours that are going to be able to help one another? Because then again, it ties in and they're able to grow, help each other grow, or, the one really takes off because of something that the other one said, and it all ties in. Yeah. Austin, I was doing some coaching with Austin, and he was able to, help me out, to really get focused on what I need to do. I upped my sales. I increased my sales 3 times, and, I 3x my sales in, the first month after that, because I just really knew what the important tasks were. Okay. Yeah, that's great. And then he connected me with, so-and-so, which really helped me get to the next level, too. So it was like, dude, it was awesome. Yeah, dude, no, go, here's his stuff, dude, get your life, get on the right path, construct your life, man. He's going to help you out on it. That's what the real value is. And, that's where you are providing that value to people. You are getting compensated for it, but don't look at what the opportunity cost is. Look at what the end result can be. But you need to do the work, but you have the guidance, because again, a lot of times people just don't know what the guidance is. They can have that ambition. They can't focus that ambition to the right task.
100%. So I'm going to finish there. How do people find out about you? How do they find the podcast? All those things?
Yeah. So the podcast is Apartment Investing for Early Retirement. That's on any major podcast platform. That wherever your preferred spot to listen is. But if you want to reach out, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active for social media. So it's just Derek Loda, DEREK LODA. And then if you want to just reach out directly, shoot me an email, DLODA@lodarealestate.com. So
well, dude,
reach out.
Appreciate
Happy
it.
to help.
If you like this episode, guys, make sure you share it with your friends, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, my brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.